Hello, Broken Arrow. My name is Hannah Perry. I am the Public Information Coordinator here at Broken Arrow Police Department. And today I am here with Major Stephen Garrett, our Major over Operations, and Officer Tyler Baskins, who just recently was awarded Officer of First Quarter. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it to you guys. Major, we'll start with you. Tell me how long you've been with the department, a little bit about your career.
I've been with the Broken Arrow Police Department 25 years this year, started in 2001. I'm currently the Patrol Bureau Commander, so I'm over all of patrol. We have 4 shifts on patrol. About 120 of our 170 officers are in the patrol division. So my duties are essentially running the day-to-day operations of the entire bureau. So I disseminate a lot of things to the captains that run each shift and just handle calls for service as far as when they come into my office, not actually out on the streets. But I'll get a lot of issues of, neighborhood disputes, things of that nature, and then usually disseminate those to the other, commanders on the shifts, and then they'll kind of make sure that the officers handle those issues. So more of a 30,000-foot view from my office as opposed to, actually responding to the calls. So that's my primary focus.
Sure. All right, Officer Baskins, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, so I'm Officer Tyler Baskins. I work on second shift patrol. My primary duties are responding to 911 calls, routine, non-emergency calls, and I've been here for 11 years, and it's been great. I really enjoy working here. I started at the Tulsa County Sheriff's Office. I was a detention officer, and I'd made deputy there, and then I transferred over to here and joined the academy in 2015.
Major Garrett, you had the responsibility of picking the Officer of the Quarter. So tell me a little bit about what qualities Officer Baskins has that made you pick him.
Well, 4 times a day we get shift summaries from every shift. From the captains are responsible for making sure those go out every day. And I consistently see Officer Baskins on those shift summaries through day shift. I get monthly reports and things of that nature, and I consistently see that he is one of our high performers. He's someone that doesn't just go out there and take calls. He also is an officer that likes to get into things, a lot of proactivity. What I did this year was I tasked the captains with each quarter. I was going to ask them to submit an officer to me, someone within their command that they think should get Officer of the Quarter. And when those came in, Officer Baskins was one of the officers that was suggested for being the first Officer of the Quarter. It's the first time we've done this. After looking at some of the statistics, knowing some of my personal knowledge of the officers, I decided to select him because I know not only is it this quarter that he's a high performer, but he tends to be there every month when I see the reports, but I also hear him on the radio. I see the shift summaries, and he's just something that really exemplifies our core values here at the police department.
What inspired you to implement this recognition?
And I think it's important, as much as when people do wrong and need to be held accountable, that when they do right or they excel and they go above and beyond, that we also are willing to show that and to give them recognition for that, and not only recognition to them specifically, but to the entire department. So it was something that I really wanted to do. And I talked to the chief about it, and we decided we were going to start it this year.
Officer Baskins, I know you don't do this for the recognition, but hearing Major Garrett talk about these qualities that he sees in you, how does that make you feel?
It means a lot to be recognized for things. While you said, I really do enjoy the job itself, and I don't think about the awards when I'm doing it. I truly don't. It does mean a lot to have your superiors recognize you for good performance, and I just enjoy coming to work, but again, that is nice to have them be paying attention because not every agency does that.
Your career, you've been a patrol officer, you've been a field training officer, and you're on the crisis negotiation team now or previous?
So I'm currently still on the crisis negotiations team. I was a field training officer for about 6 to 7 years.
Okay, so how have those different roles shaped the officer that you are today?
Well, as far as being a field training officer, that had a really big impact on the officer I am today. You're accountable not only for yourself as a training officer, but for your recruit that you're training as well. It has a lasting impact on their career. So whenever you see these officers that you trained that are succeeding, whether it's within patrol or they test into another unit, they're in a specialty unit, it means a lot to the field training officer. I'm speaking for myself on this because you had an impact on that officer for them to get where they are. It was a positive influence that's going to go beyond just the department. It's going to impact the community.
So let's talk a little bit about the crisis negotiation team for those who may not be aware of what that does. And this is for both of you. Let's talk about how important of a resource that is that our department has that.
When communication is broken down, that's when things usually go awry, whether you're an officer or not, just in anybody's life. If you can practice good communication skills, you can really practice that de-escalatory exercise within a call. You can really impact somebody if you just have good communication skills. Whenever we go to these emergency calls where people might be having the worst day of their life, if they just have somebody that's willing to listen and then communicate well with them, that can really lead it in a more positive outcome.
I would echo what he says and just say, at the end of the day, if we can use our negotiation skills to keep anyone from getting hurt, if we can negotiate with people, time is often on our side, and that's what we want to do. If we can keep from having to use force and we're able to negotiate and have a peaceful resolution, that's what we're looking for. I would like to go back to the field training part. One of the things I've said is arguably that's one of our most important, if not the most important position on this police department. The field trainers at this agency shape and mold the next officers that are coming into this organization, not only of how to do the job, but the internal culture that we have here, holding people accountable and making sure that our standards don't dip. So I just really want to point out that the field training officer position is very important. It's something that I'm very passionate about, making sure the right people are in those spots.
A very large part of law enforcement is people skills, having empathy, being able to hold people accountable while also still treating them with respect and dignity. So Major Garrett, from a leadership perspective, how important is it to you that your officers, like Officer Baskins, are willing to step into these roles?
It's very important because you want to let people use the strengths that they have. I'm a core values guy. I believe our 5 core values should guide everything we do. Anytime you see where maybe we fall below the standard, you can usually point to those 5 core values. What we want for these officers that are willing to take these additional duties is that they're going to exemplify our core values. That includes compassion as well. Sometimes we don't always have to be on the enforcement side of things. We can be on the compassionate side of things. Additionally, we have a mission and a vision here, and it's important that the officers that step into these additional roles understand that, and I think that Officer Baskins certainly does.
I'm a believer that in order to be a good mentor, you had to have a good mentor, and you kind of talked about that a little bit. Do you have somebody who kind of led you when you were a young officer?
Yeah, absolutely. So my first training officer was Officer Kevin Huntsberger, and he had been an officer for well over a decade whenever I was his first phase recruit. And I stepped into a world of policing. I didn't have anybody in my family that was a police officer before. And so he was like kind of my first, like, hey, I've been doing this a while. Like, let me show you the ropes kind of person. And I can't think of a better training officer to have for myself personally, especially that first phase, because Kevin he's just very relatable. He's also on the special operations team. So now I get to work with him whenever I'm on crisis negotiations. He's still so involved, even though he's been here for, over 20 years, I believe. And at the time that he trained me, he really helped me, just guide me through the world of becoming a police officer, but also just being a good person, because those two things are definitely one and the same. So he showed me, even outside of calls, hey, this is how we deal with things. Hey, this is how we deal with people. And then he let me exercise that whenever we go to actual calls and actually implement it and be genuine with it.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Yeah.
So you said you're the first person in your family to have a career in law enforcement. What inspired you to do that?
Well, it was really just kind of like fell into my lap kind of thing. I was a student at Oklahoma State University, and I was a major in secondary education. I graduated in 2013. I didn't really know if I truly wanted to go into the world of being a professional educator. My main reason for it was I wanted to be a coach, and I was planning on moving to Texas. But my wife, who graduated from the University of Oklahoma, which is okay, she's a kindergarten teacher, and so she was in the same major, and she wanted to stay here because her family was here. So I was like, man, I've got to do something else, and I was like, what am I passionate about? What would I really like enjoy coming into work and doing? And after a lot of thought, I was like, man, law enforcement seems pretty cool, It was something that I was actually drawn to, and I'm glad I made that switch and that decision. Because I don't regret it at all. Being an educator is great. We absolutely need educators. But I think I'm definitely a lot more effective in this role.
Yeah.
I could see you as a third grade teacher.
It was secondary education.
Any third grade teachers who want to bring him to the classroom, let us know. So Major Garrett, I'll ask you the same question. Your dad was in law enforcement, right?
Yeah. So my father was a police officer. I can remember my first memory actually in my entire life is remembering when he came home and I noticed or recognized he was a police officer. He was in a police car in his uniform, and I just remember thinking, that's what I'm going to do. And my entire life, in middle school, high school, I set myself up to be a police officer. So that's what really inspired me. And as soon as I got out of high school, I went to college. I got my degree, applied here right at 21. And luckily, as you've probably heard, it's not easy to get hired at Broken Arrow. I got hired the first time, and I've been here ever since. So it was something that was kind of more of a legacy thing for my family. But that doesn't mean that you have to do it that way. There's lots of great officers that didn't have that. But for me, it was a family thing. I have lots of family that's in that's in the police world. My nephew is at the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, and I have many other family members. So it's kind of a family thing for us.
So Officer Baskins, I'm going to start talking about your stats a little bit here. So I have you completed 43 reports. You conducted 35 traffic stops, issued 25 citations, made 13 arrests, and responded to 165 calls for service during the first quarter. So are there any moments with all that, I know that's a lot, that have stayed with you?
There's several that you think of as far as just within that quarter for sure. There's some calls that fall before that quarter that stand out as well. Some are deeply personal. Officers go to calls all the time where you do remember it for either a good outcome or one that was not as desired. Within that quarter though, it was like you said, I don't really pay attention to my stats, so those numbers are a little new to me. But it was I just like to come to work and try to be active and try to have fun with my coworkers as much as we can within the appropriate time frame.
And outside of this quarter, you've received a lot of awards, including a life-saving award.
Well, I remember that call, as you mentioned, some calls you do remember more than others, and for sure that one. There was a gentleman who was a middle-aged male that was in a residence that was unresponsive. I got there first. It was like training kicked in, You think about these calls before you ever go on them. You're like, okay, what am I going to do in this situation, this one? And then whenever it actually happens, they train us so well here, it just kicks in. It's like you're not even thinking about it, but you are doing it. I provided CPR until fire got there, and they took over from there, and I found out that he made a recovery, so it was really cool to have an impact in that. But I definitely wasn't alone. Obviously, There were other officers that responded as well, helped me out with things, and then our fire department, they're great. They took over, obviously, and it was a great outcome.
That's great. So we featured you on Meet the Team Monday a few weeks ago, and one of the things that you said, and you have also talked about it in this interview, is that what matters to you is showing up, doing the job well, and enjoying the work along the way. I want to ask you if you can elaborate on that, but you really have. So if you want to talk about maybe some moments that have proven this to be true.
Every morning we have squad meeting. Each shift has squad meeting. And so sometimes when you walk in, especially on day shift, it's, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. People can be a little tired coming in, just like any 9 to 5 job. I like to kind of try to spice things up a bit. I sometimes drop some jokes here and there. It's all in good fun. Try to get the day going like that. Some people appreciate it more than others. I definitely like to try to liven the mood wherever I'm at. I'm a pretty talkative guy, so I'm usually always saying something.
Yes. So another question for both of you. We've talked about mentorship. We've talked about the side of people pouring into you guys as officers. So you two, being officers who have trained probably multiple people, has there been a moment when you're like, yes, this officer's good without me now?
The first officer that comes to mind, he's a sergeant now. His name is Zach Schatz. I think he started probably in 05 or 06, probably somewhere around that time. I wasn't actually his FTO for the full session, but I had him for a week. And we were like early on in the second phase, and I was like, man, this guy is ready. Like, he's ready to go. He could be cut loose right now, and he still probably had 8 weeks of training left. And it just always stuck with me that, some people, it comes to them naturally. Some people, they have to work at it a little longer. So oftentimes, officers may get extended in FTO. They may need a few more weeks of training. So it's one thing that I remembered and recalled was that, hey, not everybody learns at the same pace. Not everybody learns the same way. I remember having Sergeant Schatz, and he was like, man, that guy was ready to go. And he had always wanted to be a police officer as well. And that's the one that sticks out to me.
For sure. And my last 2 recruits that I trained, it was back in 2022. It's Officer Seabolt and Officer Keaton. I had them there in the same academy. This job really seemed to come naturally to those two. They both have excelled so well within patrol and outside of it. They're both in specialty units. It's really cool to watch them flourish in their careers and see them go even further than where they were, obviously, when they first started. but also be effective within patrol too. So that's really rewarding.
There are hard times and hard things to face with this job. So tell me about some moments that do fill your cup to remind you why you chose this career.
Well, one of the things that I see is just the good work that the men and women here do every single day on our shift summaries or hearing it on the radio of officers that are really going above and beyond, or they're really making a great arrest or doing great teamwork. We had a really good call just last night where there was a lot of teamwork to get some burglars caught. And those things that I see really show me that, hey, the work that we've put in is paying off. There is so much great work that goes on here, and it's not only in patrol. You know, we have great detectives that do great jobs, and all of our professional staff, like you, do a great job. And I work hand in hand with you on a daily basis. And those things just really show me that we have an organization here that, like any, may have its own problems, but we really all do try to work towards a common goal, and it's just really rewarding. And something that I've done for 25 years, and there's nothing I would rather do.
You see people on the worst day of their life sometimes on calls. Something that's really great to see that can be, you know, a silver lining with some of those. You're contacted by the family members or someone else that was involved later on to tell you, like, hey, because of, you know, what the police department did, this happened, and it's something even better that you didn't think would happen from the worst day of their life. Whenever you think about those things, like I said, I like to just take my calls and do the best I can and hope for the best. But whenever you actually know the best from a bad situation happened, that's also really good to hear. There's different calls that, you know, you remember more than others. For sure, anytime kids are involved, for me, that's stuff that I remember. And whenever you see them years later and they're doing well, it's just awesome. Whether it's because of what you did or not, I mean, it's just, that's awesome to see somebody that was in such a rough spot be thriving. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
You coach youth basketball and youth football, right?
I do.
Okay, so why is it important to you to invest in young people?
Whenever I grew up playing sports, and some of the most impactful people were some of my coaches. That was really important to me, and I realized that at a young age. I figured whenever I got older, that's why I went to secondary education before I knew this job. I really wanted to try to be that person because they were so impactful to me. So now that I have kids, my son actually plays a lot of sports. So the ones that I grew up playing were primarily basketball and soccer, and I played a little bit of football. So I wanted to be involved with his life, obviously just as my kid, but also I wanted to be involved with, you know, other teammates' lives and things like that, do the best I could to try to help them have the best time they could while shaping them through sports for life later.
Well, we have to talk about your viral Facebook reel / TikTok.
For sure.
That we featured you in. A video just reminding drivers not to be on their phones,
Yes.
even whenever an officer pulls up.
Yep.
I think you're now known for your infamous looking down over the sunglasses.
That seems to be the one that's talked about toward me each time someone tells me that they remember me from that. So yeah, I didn't think that I'd be in videos or anything. I was just trying to come to this department and just kind of coast through and not be noticed and just try to do a good job.
That didn't happen.
Definitely the opposite happened, but it was great. It was fun.
Didn't it have like 1 million views or
It
2
did.
million views? Yeah.
It sure did. Distracted driving is an issue. So from your perspective, what are some things that you guys are seeing on the roadways right now?
Well, it's, you know, it's the day of the digital age. Everybody has a cell phone. Everyone's on their cell phone when they're driving. And I say everyone, but, you know, you do have some people that are doing that. And even some of the tragedies we've seen that result from that, it's just unfortunate. It's something that we really try to push. I will tell you, it's a pet peeve of mine. If I see it, it's almost always an automatic citation. Or you'll have people putting on makeup or, just doing something other than driving. You know, we used to have a drop it or drive campaign, which means drop your cell phone and just drive and focus on the driving. And there really can be disastrous consequences. Hopefully people are doing their hands free if they're going to be on their phone, but it's very important that you put your phone down while you're driving.
Whatever you need to do to make it to where you're not as distracted and you can actually focus on the roadway. A lot of my life, how I plan it, is done on my phone. It's a very important thing to have, but more importantly, you've got people on the roadway. The consequences of not putting it down are so great and can affect not only your life, but other people as well.
Summer is coming, and so remember, lots of pools are open. If you have little children, make sure that, that you're watching them, especially if you have a pool or you're in and around a pool. And there's lots of motorcycles out during the summer, more than there are during the cooler months, as you know. Just make sure keep an eye out for the motorcycles. Sometimes we don't always see what we don't expect to see.
Before we wrap this up, I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions. So you play pickup basketball. I've heard you've been known to break a few ankles, including your own.
It's true.
True.
It's true.
It's true. Okay.
Yes.
Just once?
Yeah, so multiple on other people sometimes. And then, yeah, for sure once on my own ankle.
How did I not know this?
Yeah, and you got to show up to the games. We got to play against each other.
Well, we're just going to do a one-on-one in the parking lot after this. So, okay, last question. You've made it your mission to introduce your 3 children to the greatness of 90s Disney.
Yes.
What is the best 90s Disney movie?
Pocahontas, followed very closely by Beauty and the Beast.
Okay, there you have it. Do you disagree?
I've never seen either.
He could paint with all the colors of the rain.
Not a huge Disney guy, but that doesn't.
He's a car guy.
It's okay. After we play basketball, we can watch a Disney movie together. That'd be cool.
I'm cool with that.